Hey, Chris from Lead Liaison and Captello here, and today we're going to talk about creating a QR code template. So QR code templates are great for personalizing and branding QR codes meant for physical media, live presentations, and more. So to get started, let's go to the setup area by clicking on the big gear in the top right corner of the screen. And then we're going to go to App Setup and QR Codes. From here, you can manage your existing codes, edit them, delete them, or clone them. We're going to go ahead and create a new one. You can add a description if you like. And in general, you can keep the file type and the resolution roughly the same. This will work in almost every situation that you need to use it in. So 1000 by 1000 pixels is actually quite large whenever that comes out, and you can resize that down. If you did need larger for whatever reason, maybe an especially large poster, you can increase it, but keep in mind that will increase the file size as well. And then for online deployments, you might choose an SVG file instead. But again, for most of your use cases, you'll probably be fine with just the PNG and our default resolution. So we can make these QR codes a lot more interesting than the standard code. To start out with, we can color them. And you can add a single color, or we can give them a gradient. And we have two types of gradients available. I'm going to go ahead and give this a radial gradient. And I'm going to click the Apply button so I can see my changes. And there we go. Now we've got a nice, colorful QR code. And I'm actually going to steal this color code here. And I'm going to change the color of the eye right here. So these are called eyes on the outside of the QR code, and we can change the inside color here. And again, I'm going to hit apply so I can see my changes, and there you go. We now have a nice colorful QR code. So if I'm going with this blue color, this will really match my branding. Of course, you can make it whatever you like. You can change the background color, but you need to make sure that there's enough of a contrast between the background and the code itself. Otherwise, cameras may not be able to scan it. So if you're going for like a very light color for the QR code, you might consider a darker background and vice versa. Overall, you can play with it some in case you're concerned about scannability. Now, you can also add a logo to the QR code as well. And we have some logos that are ready to go. So let's say that I was trying to link to a tweet or my Twitter account. I could include the Twitter logo in here. And you see now I have a nice little Twitter logo in the middle. You do also have the option, depending on how your logo is stylized, you may want to give it a little bit of white space around there, in which case you can remove any part of the QR code that's behind the logo. So you'll see what this looks like in a second. So you see there, it's just given a little bit more breathing room around my logo. Now, you don't have to just use our library here. We can choose to upload logos as well. Just as an example, we'll use our Captello logo here. Again, I'll hit apply. And you can see I have the Captello logo ready to go. So you can insert whatever image you would like in here to use as your logo. And then finally, we can also play with the design of the QR code as well. So we don't have to have just the plain squares everywhere else. We can get things looking really interesting and unique. So we have different body shapes that are available, iframes and eyeballs. And watch, by doing that, I get a really unique looking QR code. And really play around with this, find something that matches what you're going for and what you want it to look like. But once you have decided on a design that you're happy with, you are good to save the QR code and move on. So now that we have this saved, I'm ready to use it. So let's use a web view event as an example here. So if I go to Content and Events, and I want to launch my event here in the web view, I would use the drop-down menu on the far right, and I would select Web View. And so here we can see the QR code for this particular event, but I'm able to change to my other QR codes here. Let me change to my example from earlier. I'm going to choose to generate the code. And so here we have a scannable QR code that's ready to go, that's going to lead people directly to my event. And notice that I can switch between them. So if I have a couple different brands going on, like we do here with Lead Liaison and Captello, I'm able to change around the template and create a code for each one of them. Let's look at one other example. This will be with our tracking URLs. So as a reminder, these tracking URLs allow you to see if a prospect has clicked on a link in an email. And we'll use an example of one right here. So I've already put my tracking code in the system, and we've added an option here that says QR code. So again, I'm able to choose what template that I want to use. I select generate. And again, here's the QR code that would be good for this tracking URL. So this is perfect if you wanted to send this out to a mailing house or someone who's going to be creating flyers for you. And then finally, this can also be integrated with our postcard feature. And so if we see in here, in this postcard that I created earlier, I'm able to add QR codes directly onto the postcard. And again, once I have the code there, I can select what template I want to use, what type of asset I want this to be, and what particular, in this case, tracking URL I would want to use. And there we go. I've got a couple different QR codes that are on here and good to go. So you can see some good examples of the variations we have. So these QR codes are going to be great as far as branding anything that's more physical or something where your client may not be in front of their email. It's not really a digital scenario. They're able to use their own phone, their own mobile device, and they're able to interact with you in a nice, safe environment. Of course, if you have any questions or you have any feedback for us, always feel free to contact Lead Liaison Support using the intercom badge in the lower right corner of your screen.